Let's move to our last question because we're closing in on our time here. I think we've been talking about everything in this question, and I'm looking forward to to wrapping up our conversations around on that efficacy side. What can we do? We've been talking about how the attacking of DEI and so-called woke culture is fear mongering, there's this existential threat to society for us in whatever roles we're in as inclusive leaders. To what degree is it pushing back against the false narratives and then kind of positing in a balanced way? What's the vision? What's the practical invitation?
Mm.
What's the action set that we can articulate into that fear? We've talked about some of it, but would love to hear kind of your wrap on um, on the reality that there's so much fear and resistance to what we mean by DEI, even though people are often operating, like you said, without more in their fear and their reaction than they are in the opportunity. What can we do to resist and push back, but also to put the alternatives forward?
hmm Simple answer to this one. We move from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. And
Mm.
that's pretty much the entire answer to this question. Because a lot of fear mongering presumes that it's a zero sum game, right?
Right.
It presumes that the resource allocation in society is just simply fixed. And so if any one group has any improvement, it must come at the cost of everyone else who already has things. It's a huge fallacy, right? It's absolutely untrue in every sense of the word. Every day, new advancements in technology, every day, new achievements from organizations around the world and in our society increase value, right? They move us, they
Mhm.
progress us forward, and yet fear mongering would have you believe that you know the only group that's allowed to benefit are groups that are already benefiting, because if any other group has a good time or has even a slightly less worse time, that must come straight from the pockets of people who are doing okay. So fear mongering would have you believe that you person who probably isn't doing great but has a little bit, you could lose everything if you just give transgender people a little bit of rights, right? And it activates our desire for self-preservation. In psychology, we call this loss aversion. The idea that the fear of losing, let's say $10, is much more powerful than the promise of gaining $10. Psychologically, we're able to
Mhm.
measure this. We're much more scared of losing what we have than gaining a little more. And it's just this principle that fear mongering activates. Now, to move past it, we just need to push hard on this vision that we are actually trying to improve things for everybody. I actually say this to a lot of white men that I talk to. I want you to imagine a society that is better for everyone, including you.
Mhm.
And here's the thing, I find that a lot of folks that are already, relatively privileged, living a good life, can't actually imagine a better world even for themselves. And so it's a failure of imagination. They can only imagine things getting worse for themselves. And so they will, of
Mhm.
course, resist DEI work because of the zero sum idea, this idea that, when women or when people of color or disabled folks, LGBTQ plus folks, immigrants, disabled folks, etc., benefit a little bit, then that means I might lose some of my opportunities or I might lose some of my well being. And that's a travesty. That's not true,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But sometimes we don't say that as practitioners. Sometimes we
Right.
assume, we can get so
Right.
caught up in our own knowledge that, yeah, of course that's not true. We never actually say it.
Right.
And so for the anxious, maybe scared white leader who worries, they don't see any indication from us that we're not, looking out to just rebalance the scale and put
Mhm.
a different group of people at the top. We're
Right.
actually looking to expand the pie. We're trying to make things better for everybody. If we don't articulate that, then we can get ourselves in trouble. We can get ahead of
Mhm.
ourselves, and then people get anxious and defensive. The easiest way to fix that is just to say the quiet part out loud. We are trying to make things better for everybody, including white men. We're trying to build societies and organizations and teams and environments where truly everyone can thrive, where workplaces are not toxic, everyone has opportunity, everyone is set up for success. And for the people that are so cynical to believe that that's not possible, we can prove it. There's so much that we know about how to design better organizations. We're only held back by fear and anxiety and, worry from leaders in power that there's no better possibility than what they have now, right? Like we just have to push past that, and we can, and we know how to.